Have you ever had that incredible feeling? Where time just seems to vanish?
Uh-huh.
You're completely absorbed, performing at your absolute peak. Maybe it's sports, maybe art, or even just like a really challenging project at work.
Yeah, people call it all sorts of things, right? In the zone, in the groove.
Exactly. On fire, present, unified, or just a rush.
That feeling.
Yeah, that feeling. There's this really compelling story about it from a singer, Sean MacArthur.
Oh, yeah.
He was in the finals of a competition, about to sing Papageno's suicide aria from the Magic Flute. Pretty high stakes.
Definitely.
And as the music starts, he makes a gesture and literally watches his hand shaking violently.
Wow, okay. Terror time.
Total terror creeping in. But then this really simple, firm thought just pops into his head. No.
Just no.
Just no. And in that instant, his hand steadies. His mind just locks in. He feels this like profound connection to the audience, the pianist, the music itself. He said time slowed right down, total unification of body, mind, voice. Like he couldn't do anything wrong.
It's incredible.
And then, poof, the aria's over. One of the best performances he'd ever given.
Yeah.
He found out later that feeling, that was flow.
Flow. That's the term.
Exactly. And today, that's what we're doing. A deep dive into this whole concept of flow and the psychologist who really pioneered it, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
Right, Hungarian-born psychologist. And our mission really for this deep dive is to unpack what flow actually is.
Okay.
Where did it come from in terms of research? What are the benefits, the really profound ones?
Uh-huh.
And crucially, what helps us get there? What helps us get into that optimal state and maybe even stay there?
And maybe some surprising things that help too.
Exactly. We'll get into some counterintuitive stuff as well. Think of it as, a shortcut to understanding this really powerful state of consciousness.
Okay, so if that's the feeling Sean described, that amazing state, how did Csikszentmihalyi define it? Like, formally?
Well, his definition was pretty clear. He called it a state of consciousness where one becomes totally absorbed in what one is doing to the exclusion of all other thoughts and emotions. I mean, completely focused.
Wow, that's intense.
And he didn't stop there. He actually argued that a good life is one that is characterized by complete absorption in what one does.
That's a huge claim.
Uh,
A good life is defined by this absorption.
it is, and others have built on it. Stephen Kotler, from the Flow Research Collective.
Yeah, I know his work.
He puts it simply, flow is an optimal state of consciousness where we feel our best and we perform our best.
Feel our best and perform our best. That combination is key.
Exactly. And Dr. Cameron Norsworthy adds another layer, calling it a deep state of focus in which every component of the mind and body work together towards one aim.
Like total synergy. Mind and body locked onto one thing.
Precisely. And what's really amazing is how universal this can be.
Right? It's not just for, like, elite athletes or famous musicians.
Not at all. Kotler says people find flow doing just about anything. The obvious ones. Athletes, musicians, writers, but also accountants, gamers, chess players, rock climbers. It even shows up powerfully in education and how people learn.
So that's really a core idea then. It's less about what you're doing and more about how you're engaging with it. You could, theoretically, find flow in, I don't know, organizing spreadsheets.
Absolutely. Or folding laundry. If you approach it with that kind of complete focus, the activity itself isn't the barrier, it's the engagement.
Okay, so what does it actually feel like? What are the characteristics when you're in it?
Well, there are several key things. First, that intense focus we talked about, it's often described as leading to a sense of ecstasy, like pure joy.
Ecstasy, wow.
Yeah. Then there's that unification of mind and body. You're just functioning at your absolute peak.
Effortless action.
Exactly. Your body moves without you thinking. Practice skills just happen automatically. It feels effortless. There's also this intense sense of control. And that's powerful because it frees you from the fear of failure. It's empowering.
No room for self-doubt.
None. And your sense of time gets warped. It might speed up, might slow down. Hours feel like minutes or seconds stretch out.
I've definitely felt that.
Right. And you feel this increased sense of unity with yourself, or if you're in a group activity, with others.
Like a team clicking perfectly.
Precisely. And maybe the most important part, the motivation is intrinsic, or autotelic, as Csikszentmihalyi called it.
Auto what now?
Autotelic. Auto means self, telos means goal. So the activity itself is the goal. You're doing it for its own sake.
Not for money or praise or some external thing.
Exactly. The activity is the reward.
That's fascinating. Okay, so where did Csikszentmihalyi even start with this? It didn't just appear out of nowhere.
No, it didn't. Actually, his early work wasn't directly on flow. It was on creativity.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and he had this view of creativity not just as something inside one person's head, but really emphasizing the environment, the interactions around the creative person.
And context matters.
Hugely. He interviewed, get this, 91 really creative individuals,
Yeah.
including 12 Nobel laureates. And that research led to his big book, Creativity, Flow and the Psychology of Discovery and Invention.
So flow emerged from studying creativity.
It seems deeply connected. And at the same time, he was also digging into attention, what he called psychic energy.
Psychic energy. Sounds a bit out there.
Maybe the term does, but the idea is pretty grounded. He argued that our attention, our ability to process information consciously, is finite, limited.
Okay, you can only focus on so much at once. Makes sense.
Right, and if that's true, then where you choose to place that limited attention has enormous consequences for your quality of life.
How so?
Because he believed the quality of your experiences, what you pay attention to, ultimately determines whether your life feels worthwhile.
Whoa, okay, that's deep. Our attention literally shapes the value of our life.
Pretty profound, right? It makes you think about where your own attention goes day to day.
Definitely. Like how much of it is truly on things that make life feel rich versus just...
Exactly. And this whole line of thinking about attention and positive experience, it directly fed into a whole new field. Positive psychology.
Right, he's considered one of the founders, along with Martin Seligman.
Correct. Seligman was president of the American Psychological Association at the time, and their goal was pretty radical then.
What, moving beyond just fixing problems?
Precisely. Psychology had been so focused on illness, on fixing what's broken, they wanted to shift the focus to also building positive qualities.
Like resilience, well-being, happiness.
Yes. To create, an empirically based understanding of what makes life good, what actions actually lead to well-being, positive individuals, thriving communities.
Which brings us back to flow being, as Csikszentmihalyi boldly claimed, the secret to happiness.
It's a strong statement, but you can see the logic. When you're in flow, that thinking brain, your prefrontal cortex, kind of takes a back seat.
The part that worries and criticizes.
Yeah, your inner critic, those constant mental narratives, the day-to-day stress. It all tends to quiet down or just vanish.
So it feels like liberation.
Totally. You feel less bogged down by all that mental chatter and life's pressures.
And the tangible benefits are real, too, right?
Yeah.
We're not just talking feelings.
Oh, absolutely. Increased productivity, definitely. Improved performance. We see that across domains.
Creativity gets a boost.
Big time.
Yeah.
And it contributes to long-term well-being and resilience, too.
That makes sense. If you have more experiences like that, you'd likely feel better overall.
For sure. And some research even suggests flow can act as a buffer, protecting against things like depression, anxiety, even neuroticism.
Really? That's significant.
It is. Now, the scientific community is still, working hard to pin down the exact mechanism.
Even from correlation to causation.
Exactly. We know these benefits happen with flow, but fully explaining the why and how at a neurological and physiological level is still an active area of research. Very exciting stuff.
Okay, so everyone listening is probably thinking, great, sign me up. How do I get into flow whenever I want?
Haha, yeah, the million-dollar question. And the first thing to say is, as Dr. Norsworthy puts it, you can't really hack flow. It's not like an on-off switch you control directly.
Right, you can't just will it to happen.
No, but you absolutely can set the stage. You can increase your chances of experiencing it dramatically even.
Now, what's the key?
The absolute critical factor, according to Csikszentmihalyi's model, is balancing the challenge of the task with your skill level. But crucially, it's your perceived challenge and perceived skill.
Okay, perceived, not necessarily objective reality.
Exactly. It's about how difficult you find the task and how capable you feel in that moment. Think of his model, sometimes shown as a graph.
Right.
If the challenge is way too low for your skills, like, say, washing dishes, for most adults, you get bored or apathetic.
Makes sense. Mindless task.
Yep. Now, flip side, if the challenge is way too high for your skills, imagine me trying to solve complex physics equations.
Not happening.
Right. I just feel anxious, overwhelmed,
Yeah.
worried. But the sweet spot, the channel where flow happens, is when the task is challenging enough to demand your full attention, but you feel you have the skills to meet that challenge.
Challenging, but possible.
Precisely. One rower described it perfectly. Challenging, but able to meet the challenge. That's the zone.
And the perception part is huge.
Yeah.
Because that means it's accessible to everyone, right? Beginners, too.
Absolutely. Take singing, for example.
Mm.
A simple Italian aria like Caro mio ben. For a beginner, singing it well presents a real challenge, but it's achievable with practice. That can be flow.
But for a professional opera singer.
For an advanced singer, just singing the notes might be, frankly, boring. Low challenge, high skill, unless they find new ways to engage, maybe focus intensely on nuanced phrasing or deep emotional connection or perfect diction. They increase the perceived challenge internally.
Ah, so you can adjust the challenge dial yourself in a way.
You can. And that leads to another key point. This balance isn't static, it's dynamic. Meaning, as your skills improve, say, you practice yoga every day and get much better, the same poses become less challenging.
So you risk falling back into boredom.
Exactly. To stay in the flow channel, as your skills grow, the perceived challenge needs to grow too. You need to push yourself a bit more, try harder poses, hold them longer, whatever it is.
But it's not always about just doing harder stuff, like you said with the singer.
Right. Imagination plays a huge role. Master performers can take simple things and make them incredibly engaging, finding challenge and subtlety and depth. The challenge can be internal.
That's really interesting. And does this apply to groups too? Can a team find flow?
Oh, absolutely. The challenge of collaborating effectively, of syncing up perfectly on a joint task. Think of a great jazz band improvising or a basketball team on a fast break. That shared challenge can absolutely be a source of group flow.
Cool. And you mentioned something earlier, autotelic personality.
Ah, yes. That's the idea that some people just have a natural tendency to engage in activities for the sheer enjoyment of it, for the activity's own sake.
They're intrinsically motivated more often.
Exactly. And research suggests these individuals are more prone to experiencing flow across various activities. They're kind of wired to find the reward in the process.
Okay, now I want to throw in something that seems, well, backwards.
Oh, go on.
This idea that adding constraints, like rules or restrictions, can actually help creativity and flow.
Ah, yes. The paradox of constraint.
It totally clashes with that image we have, right? The free-spirited bohemian artist who needs total freedom to create.
It really does. But that whole idea of the artistic temperament, like, eccentric, needing no rules, it's largely a myth.
Really? Where did it come from?
Well, it has deep roots. You can trace some of it back to writers like Giorgio Vasari in the mid-1500s who kind of romanticized artists. But the reality is creativity isn't just internal. It's deeply social and cultural, too. And absolute freedom. It can be paralyzing.
I can actually imagine that. Like the blank page or the blank canvas.
Yeah.
Where do you even start if anything is possible?
Exactly. Van Gogh talked about the idiotic stare of a blank canvas, how it could just freeze painters up. And the writer John McPhee, he described starting piece by just flinging words as if I were flinging mud at a wall, just to break the inertia of infinite possibility.
Just get something down. Anything.
Right, because total freedom offers no direction, no starting point.
So how do constraints help? Seems counterintuitive.
Well, listen to what artists themselves have said. The poet Baudelaire believed conventions rules actually allow originality to flower.
Okay.
The painter Georges Braque put it beautifully. Limited means beget new forms, invite creation, make the style. He said progress isn't about extending limits, but knowing them better.
Knowing the limits better.
And Igor Stravinsky, the composer, he was very clear. The more constraints one imposes, the more one frees oneself of the chains that shackled the spirit.
Wow. Constraints set you free. It's a total paradox.
It is, and it's not just artists saying this. Princeton psychologist Philip Johnson Lair included constraint as a key part of his definition of creativity.
So it's built into the psychological understanding, too.
Definitely. Think about jazz improvisation. It sounds so free, right?
Totally spontaneous.
But it's actually operating within a complex set of constraints. Harmonic structures, rhythmic conventions, scales that the musicians have internalized. Those rules enable the improvisation.
Ah, okay. The rules give them a playground to be creative within.
Exactly. And there's even a theory called the green eggs and ham hypothesis by Catronal Hott.
Like the Dr. Seuss book.
Kind of. The idea is that constraints force you out of your usual habits. Our brains tend to default to familiar solutions.
The path of least resistance.
Right. Constraints block those easy paths and force your brain to explore new, more novel routes. They actually boost creativity by making you think differently.
Okay, I'm starting to see it. How does this apply to, say, music performance, like this singer earlier?
Well, music itself is full of constraints, isn't it? Pitch, rhythm, maybe words, dynamics, the style.
True. Lots of rules already.
But a performer can add more constraints to deepen the challenge and potentially find flow, maybe deciding to adhere strictly to a specific historical performance practice.
Or focusing intensely on translating the text perfectly while singing.
Or layering in a specific dramatic intention for every phrase. These are self-imposed constraints that increase the perceived challenge.
And this seems important only if the basic skills are there, right?
Absolutely a crucial point. You can't add complex interpretive constraints if you're still struggling just to hit the notes or remember the words. The technical foundation has to be solid. Otherwise, adding constraints just leads to frustration, not flow.
Okay, that makes sense. So we know how to potentially get into flow.
Yeah.
What pulls us out?
Right, the flow killers. Dr. Norsworthy sums it up nicely. Conflict disrupts harmony.
Conflict. What kind of conflict?
Internal conflict, mostly. Like not having a clear purpose for what you're doing. Or having ambiguous goals you're not quite sure what success looks like.
Or maybe doing something just because you have to.
Obligation.
Obligation.
Exactly. If you're doing something out of obligation rather than genuine interest or desire, it's really hard to get fully absorbed. There's an underlying friction.
That rings true. And then there are the external things.
Oh, yeah. Stephen Kotler is blunt about it. Distraction is the biggest killer of flow.
The notifications.
Yeah.
The emails.
Cell phone alerts, endless emails popping up, even things like noisy open plan offices, anything that yanks your attention away.
I know for me, just seeing that little red notification bubble appear can completely derail my focus. It's like a reflex.
It really is. Our brains are wired to respond to novelty. So managing those distractions is key.
How do people do that effectively?
Well, it's often very personal. Dr. Richard Husky at UC Davis shared his own strategy. When he needs deep focus for data analysis, he can't listen to music with lyrics.
Why not?
Because if it's a song he likes, his attention gets hooked by the music, the words, the emotion, and pulled away from the data.
So what does he listen to?
Specific, bland background sounds. Things like brown noise, rainfall, or recordings of industrial fans. Sounds that mask other noises but don't capture his attention.
Interesting. So it's about finding what works for you.
Exactly. Recognizing your own personal flow triggers and flow blockers. What environment helps you focus? What sounds distract you? It takes some self-awareness.
Okay, so wrapping this all up then, this has been a fascinating deep dive. Flow is this amazing state optimal for performance, optimal for well-being.
Definitely. A peak state of consciousness.
And we can get there, not by magic, but by understanding that delicate balance between how challenging we find something and how skilled we feel.
That challenge-skill balance filtered through our own perception.
And, kind of counterintuitively, sometimes adding constraints, adding rules, can actually push us towards that state, boosting creativity along the way.
Yeah, the surprising power of limits.
So to leave everyone with something to think about.
Given that it's your perception of challenge and skill that matters most, and that even adding constraints can unlock creativity, how might focusing on what you can control shift things?
Like your attitude going into a task.
Yeah, or your environment minimizing those distractions we talked about.
Or even intentionally adding some rules or specific goals to a routine task.
Right. Could doing that help you invite more flow into your everyday life? Could it transform some of those mundane moments into periods of real absorption, maybe even peak performance, something to experiment with?